Hey guys, welcome back to Intrepid Exotics. So out here in North Carolina today, we've got a winter storm advisory out tonight. So thought this was a really good opportunity to go over some tips on keeping your reptiles warm if the power goes out. You know, these guys being cold-blooded, we got to keep their temperatures up no matter what. And we don't want anybody losing their collection. So we're going to go over that a little bit today and introduce you to these guys, and we'll be back on Intrepid Exotics. Do you have a natural love for animals? Then come along with us as we explore what it's like living with and caring for some of the most unique animals on the planet, our reptiles. Whether you're a lifelong keeper or just getting started, help us encourage responsible keeping, conservation, and public education in the interest of keeping our reptiles safe and healthy as we protect them for future generations. You're invited to spend time with us as we experience these awesome animals together on Intrepid Exotics. And before we get started, on a positive note, just wanted everybody to know, if you hadn't seen already, we put out that video not too long ago about Kamp Kenan and how he had gotten his place broken into and a couple monitors stolen from him out there. A couple days later, he posted an update where he had gotten his black Asian water monitor returned to him. So, if you guys want to, I'll go ahead and link that video down in the description too, so you can check that out. I don't remember all the details about it. I just remember seeing it and thinking, really glad he at least got one of them back. I think it's a black throat monitor that he's still looking for. So I'll leave the links in the description for that video as well, so you guys can keep up with that. So you guys may have seen this guy before. His name's Charlie, and he's a boa imperator, and you may have heard the story. When we adopted him, the folks that had him had actually had a house fire, and I think it was February or something. And the power was out for a while. Animals got pretty cold, and he was really cold, had a respiratory infection when we got him. So we had to, it was bad enough to where he needed to be medicated. But as you can see, he's back to his good old hyper self now. So, and he's all over the place. And of course, I don't think Niles is too happy about the boa getting any attention, because he's been going crazy over here too. So when we talk about losing power in wintertime when we've got our animals, of course, the best thing we can have available is a generator. And of course ample fuel to make sure that we've got enough to keep it running so they get the power turned back on. Any number of things, people sliding off the road, running into phone lines, trees falling on them, things like that. I've had several power outages down here. Fortunately, none of them lasted more than 24 hours, which is a big plus. These guys down here are normally pretty good about getting it on pretty quick. But having a generator available is really key. And some of them can get really expensive, depending on which wattages you get. But you can, if you're having a hard time getting, like, say, a whole house generator or something like that, there's a couple things that I've seen done that are a little more cost effective, and you can still manage to make sure your animals get by until the power comes back on. And one of those things is, if you these guys, okay. So one of those things we can do is to, if you've got a lot of reptiles, and say like in my 8-foot enclosures, I've got 140 watt radiant heat panels in there. If you've got a lot of those, then that stuff can add up really quickly and can stress out a generator. If you're only running like a 2500 watt or something like that, a big collection, you may not be able to run all the individual heat panels. But what you can do is, that's big enough to run a little electric space heater. So if you've got, and this is a good thing to do anytime we can, is to try and consolidate our animals so that they're in kind of a finite space that's not too difficult to close off. Kind of like this right here. I've got everything in here, one space heater. If I bring the ambient room temperature up, then it, you know, these guys are just fine. I keep it typically about 80 degrees down here anyway. And I've got one small electric heater that helps while the power's on. And, you know, put another one on top of that if the power goes out, and you're pretty much going to be okay. Not going to be running all of the individual units and sucking up that much wattage. I'll just put that out energy into you know, space heaters, keeping the ambient room temperature up, and we're fine. Now, I have seen guys that haven't had, you know, they don't have access to a generator for whatever reason. I have seen people use grow tents, and they just tub up their animals, put them all inside that grow tent, put them in there with the heating source of some type. Yeah, it's kind of like the old survival trip where you can take a blanket, throw it up over yourself, and just light a candle inside of it. Eventually, you know, that little candle is going to generate just enough heat to you know, warm you up a little bit, keep you from going hypothermic. And it's the same type of idea. Tub up all your animals, put them in there. Yeah, they're only going to be in there probably for a short period of time. You know, like I said, most times you get power outages, they're back on, you know, within a day in most cases. So I would recommend leaving any water bowls and things like that out of the tubs. You know, simply because, you know, if they're already cold and you try putting a water bowl in their tub that they're in, they spill it when you're not paying attention, and now it's cold and they're sitting in water. So you know, it's a lot better for them to go a day without having access to water than it is for that water to be dropping their body temperature while we're trying to keep them warm until the power comes back on. And one thing to keep in mind too is, you know, wherever you're doing it, unless you've got a fireplace with a chimney, you don't want to be doing it with open flames. You know, you can use propane, LP gas. That stuff will burn clean, but you still need to have a carbon monoxide detector around. Wherever, if you've got an enclosed space and you've got any kind of heat going, you know, make sure you've got a means of either a carbon monoxide alarm detector or whatever, you know, whatever the case may be. Make sure you got one of those there as well, because your snakes can succumb to it just as easily as you can. You know, carbon monoxide binds with the hemoglobin in your blood and reduces your oxygen carrying capacity, and it asphyxiates you. So, and these guys' blood works the same way as ours does. So you know, if you've only got, you know, a couple snakes, you know, kind of small, harmless snakes, and you know, you can always tuck them down, you know, either inside your shirt, throw a jacket on, tuck them down inside of there, and then just let them hang out with you and benefit from your body heat while you're waiting for everything to come back on. Of course, that's something that we can't really do with our larger snakes. I don't have enough body heat or surface area to go around for all of my guys. So, and one thing that's a really good idea for reptile keepers in general is getting LP gas, you know, getting an emergency tank or something like that set up. When your power goes out, you can still run propane heaters and things like that inside your house, and they do a really good job. You can get some really high BTU heaters that are pretty inexpensive, you know, and they will last you, you know, easily the duration of any kind of power outage. So it's another really good thing to have available. That way, you know, wherever you've got that heater at, you insulate that room up really good, and that thing's going to keep everybody just fine. You know, even with no electricity out the house at all. And you know, even worst case scenario, if you don't have access to a generator, your generator breaks down or something like that, you know, it's a really good idea to make sure that you've got enough tubs that you can tub all your animals in. I've got a 5-person tent that if worse comes to worse, I can bring that down here, tub all of my animals, put them all inside that tent, get the inside of that tent warming up some, and it's going to be enough. I can maintain them, you know, long enough for the power to come back on. And you can see Niles is having one of them days back there. I sit with him every day. I was sitting there with him earlier today, and he got a little excited and decided to get a hold of my finger. So I'm not sure if he's trying to get through that cage to apologize to me for it, or if he's trying to finish off the job and take the rest of my finger with him, but I don't think I'm going to find out today. And give him a little bit of time to relax, and then we'll go and sit with him a little bit more tomorrow. So yeah, when weather happens and we lose power, of course the best thing that you can do is have your generator on hand, have that thing fueled up and ready to go. Always make sure that we've got enough tubs and things like that we can keep our animals in, so that we can move them out of their enclosures and consolidate them into something like a grow tent. Even if you don't have a tent or anything like that around, I mean, take a king size quilt or blanket, make a fort around them. Something that's going to help insulate them and make the space that we need to heat smaller, because of course you're going to need a larger heat source to heat a larger area. So the smaller you can keep that space, better off you're going to be, the more efficient it's going to be, and the less actual heat you're going to need to keep your animals okay. And I gotta say it, for me in this room right here, if I lose the ability to keep the temperature up over 60 degrees down here when the power goes out, then I need to go ahead and get everybody consolidated into a smaller space that's easier to heat than this whole room right here. If you're using little small electric heaters and or even propane heaters, anything like that, if you're using those in an enclosed space like a tent, make sure you're keeping everything far enough away from the tub so that it's not deforming the plastic, warping it, letting the locks pop and letting your animals escape. And you certainly want to make sure that it's far enough away from everything to where it's not going to set it on fire. You don't want to add insult to injury by your power going out and then setting your house on fire too. That's not an uncommon occurrence in places that are prone to lose power. Every year you see a couple more houses burn down. And another thing to remember too is, like for my guys here, I was going to feed everybody today, but knowing that there's a ice storm and there's potential losing power, I'm not feeding them until after all that stuff's passed, and we've got a pretty reasonable expectation that we're going to have ample amounts of heat here for an ample period of time. If you think there's a storm coming, you certainly don't want to be stuffing your animals full of food, because if they've got to sit at a reduced temperature for a little bit of time, it's not going to do them any good to have a whole belly full of a meal, because they need that heat to metabolize it. So you can really add insult to injury if you hurry up and stuff your animals full of food before the electricity goes out, and then, worst case scenario, you're struggling to keep temps up for a couple days. It's not really good for them. So like with my guys, they're just going to wait. This is supposed to be through like tonight and a couple days, a little bit of precipitation, freezing and so forth. But, if we make it through tonight without our power going out, then we'll go ahead and take their meals out and we'll feed them, Monday, Tuesday, something like that. It's a lot better to, wait a couple days, make sure everything's going to be okay instead of complicating things. Just like it's better for them to go a day without a water bowl in their tub, if that's where you've got them, than it is for them to spend that day spilling their water and it just being harder to keep their body temperature up. So, ain't that right, buddy? So anyway, I just wanted to touch base with everybody really quick. And a couple side notes too. A couple interesting things that I've seen here in the news lately. One, if you guys aren't familiar with the James Webb Space Telescope, look it up. It's the biggest scientific achievement in our lifetimes, and it just fully deployed. I think it was about 800,000 miles from Earth. Check it out. It's a really interesting piece of equipment. It's going to be a game changer in astronomy. And then I was watching the news this morning too. I seen that undersea volcano erupted outside of California, so they've got those tsunami warnings out there now from Alaska all the way to California. So kind of makes our little impending snowstorm seem insignificant. But a couple interesting things. If you haven't seen them yet, look them up. And I'm going to go ahead and get him sent back home, get him relaxing again. I think he's worn himself out. He's been all over the place. And I think the next video I'm going to start working on here pretty soon is about why people are afraid of snakes. Some of the cultural significance and stigmas that are attached to snakes. and you know some of the symbolism is around them throughout history. So hopefully that'll be pretty interesting too. So you guys have an outstanding day, and I will see you next time on Intrepid Exotics.